Let's listen to the story of the Hansel and Gretel. Once upon a time, in a small cottage on the edge of a dense, dark forest, lived a poor woodcutter with his 2 children, Hansel and Gretel, and their stepmother. Times were tough, and there was often not enough food to go around. The stepmother, worried about the future, came up with a harsh plan. "We have too many mouths to feed," she whispered to the woodcutter. "We must leave Hansel and Gretel in the forest." The woodcutter loved his children dearly and was heartbroken by the idea, but in his desperation he agreed. Hansel and Gretel, however, overheard the plan. Gretel began to cry, but Hansel, always the clever one, had a plan. "Don't worry, Gretel," he said, comforting his sister. "I will find a way to get us back home." That night, Hansel sneaked out and filled his pockets with shiny white pebbles from the garden. The next day, their stepmother led them deep into the forest. Hansel, knowing they would be abandoned, dropped the pebbles along the path. After their stepmother left them, Hansel and Gretel followed the glowing trail of pebbles back home, much to their father's relief. However, their stepmother was not deterred. A few days later, she took them even deeper into the forest. This time, Hansel couldn't gather pebbles, so he left a trail of breadcrumbs instead. But the forest birds, hungry themselves, ate all the breadcrumbs, and Hansel and Gretel were lost. As they wandered, they stumbled upon an incredible sight. A little house made entirely of sweets. The walls were made of gingerbread, the roof of icing, and the windows of sparkling sugar. Starving and excited, Hansel and Gretel began to nibble on the house. Suddenly, the door creaked open, and an old woman with a kind smile stepped out. Well, dears," she said, "come inside and eat as much as you like." Little did they know, she was a wicked witch who lured children to her candy house to eat them. Once inside, the witch revealed her true nature. She locked Hansel in a cage and forced Gretel to do chores, planning to fatten Hansel up and eat him. The days passed, and Gretel feared for her brother's life. But clever as ever, Hansel tricked the witch by sticking out a bone instead of his finger when she checked to see if he was fat enough. Frustrated, the witch decided to eat Hansel anyway. She ordered Gretel to prepare the oven. Pretending not to understand, Gretel asked the witch to show her how. As the witch leaned into the oven, Gretel gave her a mighty push, and the witch tumbled inside. Gretel slammed the door shut, and the wicked witch was no more. Gretel freed Hansel, and together they discovered the witch's treasure. They filled their pockets with gold and jewels, and set off to find their way home. After many days of wandering, they finally found their way, and their father, overjoyed to see them, wept with happiness. With the witch's treasure, they had enough to live comfortably and never went hungry again. Hansel and Gretel had outsmarted the wicked witch and returned home safely, ready to live happily ever after.